I'm General Kennard, commander of the 11th Air Assault Division, and I wanted to give you a few words of introduction to the presentation which you're about to see. This Air Assault Division of ours was born last February as a result of recommendations made by the House Board that the Army should try a bold new look at the use of aerial vehicles. Aerial vehicles as a substitute for ground vehicles, for ground-based weapon systems, and for certain ground surveillance and reconnaissance systems as well. This division then was put together as a part of an experiment to determine how far and how fast the Army should go in this direction of substituting the aerial vehicles. This we have been working at very hard since February, and we believe that we've come a long ways. We think that ours is the most exciting, challenging job in the United States Army today. We believe that we have tackled it with enthusiasm and imagination. We've had great support from within the Army and from industry as well, since they have also picked up this excitement of this new challenge. What you're about to witness was an air assault demonstration put on by our units in November of 1963 here at Fort Benning for the Mobility Symposium of the Association of the United States Army. And to narrate the demonstration for you, the commander of our 11th Aviation Group, Colonel George P. Seneff.
We have many aviators and many aircraft in this division. These aerial vehicles show promise of giving us a degree of responsive battlefield mobility far greater than any Army has ever had before. I would like to emphasize from the start, however, that this is a ground combat division. We use aircraft where other divisions use ground vehicles and ground weapons, but our objective is still based on putting the infantryman at the right point at the right time. Now let's take a look at the 11th Air Assault in action. In this exercise, a reinforced battalion has been given the mission of destroying a supply complex in enemy territory. One of the division's reconnaissance Mohawks is assigned the mission of observing and photographing the complex to pinpoint its location. Following this initial recon, an Air Cav scout section has been directed to intensify reconnaissance to determine the enemy strength and disposition. Observe the tactics of the scouts as they move in. They alternately bob up to have a look-see and fire a few rounds to determine whether they draw any reaction. After being fired upon, they move out. Their job is to find the enemy, not to fight him. While the reconnaissance was going on, the battalion commander has laid on the assault operation. He has decided to attack the enemy position initially with one reinforced rifle company. Here we see the company marrying up with its lift of assault helicopters. All preparations made, the Sky Soldiers are marshaled with their aircraft. The actual loading of the copters should take no more than 5 minutes. Now the company is loaded and they make a formation takeoff. This flight contains 16 assault carriers, 4 artillery rocket ships, 4 aerial weapon ships, and 4 overflying escort Mohawks. In this formation, the 16 assault carriers are in the center of the formation in a diamond of platoons of 4 ships each. The 16 assault carriers are flanked by the artillery rocket ships and the aerial weapon ships, and are overflown by the escort Mohawks as they proceed to their landing area. The Mohawk is an ideal ship for this escort role because it is very maneuverable at the speed of about 140 knots at which it is overflying the formation. It is able to go slow enough in this thatch weave to be able to stay with the column. At the same time, it has the higher speed capability required to strike enemy ground forces that pose a threat to the column and to catch up to resume position after striking the threat. This formation actually is very difficult to spot from any distance because of flight altitudes and the manner in which it blends into the terrain. The value and purpose of the escort Mohawks is shown here, and they're disposing of an enemy ground position which threatens the aerial column en route to the landing zone. Here we see the Mohawks first striking the enemy position with rockets, and then smoking off the flank of the column to protect it from any enemy not taken care of by fire. You will notice the treetop level flying. This is characteristic of all of the flying in this division. We fly in the nap of the earth to avoid enemy detection both by eye and radar, and to avoid areas from which the enemy might be able to strike us from the ground. While the column is en route to the objective area, the battalion commander has decided to support the assault with ground artillery. Here we see the guns being flown into an unheld area by Chinook helicopters. The guns occupy a position quickly to lay brief but heavy preparatory fires on the objective area to keep the enemy's head down just prior to the landing of the assault choppers. The artillery should be able to move into position and get off its first rounds in less than 5 minutes. As the ground artillery lifts its fire, the artillery rocket helicopters, armed with 48 2.75-inch rockets apiece, take up the preparatory fires. Each of these ships carries the equivalent of a battalion volley of a 105mm howitzer battalion. As the artillery ships lift their fires, the armed escort ships of the formation fire suppressive fires as the troop carriers flare to land. The assault helicopters themselves cover their own way the last 100 yards into the landing zone by fire from light machine guns mounted in their noses. The object of all of this is to keep the enemy objective area and landing zones saturated with fire from the moment the first aircraft is heard until the assault infantry has closed with the enemy. We are now back to the basics of ground combat. The infantry, the queen of battle, closing with the enemy with fire in the bayonet. This final step has been the reason for everything that you have seen, to put the doughboy where he can do the most good. As soon as the troopers have dismounted, the helicopters lift out to a less vulnerable logger area. While the main attack is going on, a new enemy threat is recognized. One platoon is ordered to rappel into the woods to block a small enemy unit moving in on the rear of our assault force. Rappelling is done when trees or other obstacles prevent the helicopters from landing. This can add tremendously to the flexibility of our operations. Now let's break our attention away from the tactical side of the war for a moment and shift it to the logistical or supply side. Here we see a rigging team loading a caribou with much needed supplies. After the caribou is loaded, it takes off from a dispersal strip in the division base. To pinpoint the supply location, we drop a Pathfinder team from an Iroquois into the area. The Pathfinders carry the necessary equipment to guide aircraft making a supply run or to mark landing zones for helicopters. They are here directing the two caribous into the area. This low-level extraction technique was developed by the 10th Air Transport Brigade, which is attached to the division. In an air assault division, the resupply of fuel is a major consideration. We have a number of means of delivering fuel to ground locations, but at times it becomes necessary to refuel small numbers of aircraft at places other than supply bases. Here we see a Chinook helicopter equipped as an aerial tanker refueling two Iroquois. This flying gas station carries fuel in collapsible containers which can hold up to 2,000 gallons. This is enough to refuel 10 Iroquois. Another major logistical consideration is the quick evacuation of downed aircraft. Here we see a prototype sky crane picking up a damaged Iroquois. Downed aircraft thus delivered to the hands of our maintenance battalion can, in most cases, be put back into action in a matter of hours. We cut down our logistic worries by using small numbers of types of aircraft in a variety of roles. For example, the Iroquois is used as a tactical troop carrier, as an aerial artillery platform, as an escort ship, a flying command post, and an aerial ambulance providing rapid medical evacuation from front lines and isolated areas.
I hope that these shots that you have seen of this air assault demonstration have at least given you a better appreciation of what the whole thing is about, and has given you an indication, too, that what we are doing here at Fort Benning is really advancing this concept. I don't, however, want you to end with the idea that this is simply aircraft in action. The aircraft all have one basic fundamental purpose, and that is to move the fighting ground soldier farther, faster, and fresher so that he may close with the enemy in a better manner than he ever has in the past.